Good morning. My girlfriend told me yesterday that during my last and final relapse, she kept something like a diary of things I'd said, the way I was behaving. And she gave me permission yesterday to read it on the channel. So, brothers, sisters, comrades and friends, are you ready to be bummed out? Me too. Then welcome to Bat Country. It's 5 o'clock in the morning, which is exactly the wrong time to be reading your girlfriend's notes about your last relapse. So before we get into this, a quick note for context. My girlfriend is a very big advocate for partners of alcoholics. And that's why she's given me these to read. This is her diary of my final relapse. There's some stuff in here that is quite simply too painful for me to read. It's always difficult for alcoholics in general, but me in particular, to face the shittiness of our behavior, especially because it feels like somebody else who said and did these things. One, because I was drunk at the time, and drunk Bat Country is a very different person from sober Bat Country. I consider myself a relatively decent person, so it's hard to reconcile that belief with the belief that I am also capable of the things that I'm about to read to you. It's very difficult for me to do this. And very difficult for my girlfriend to share them as well. And she does so with good intentions. She's very good at this kind of thing. And she hopes that by sharing some of this, if your impression of me is that I am an articulate and intelligent and nice person, this will go to show that even intelligent, articulate, nice people can be pieces of trash once alcohol is involved. These begin when I was about 12 days into a binge. And that's a long time to be putting up with somebody who's just packing as much alcohol as they possibly can into their body. So she's already exhausted by this point. She's already trying to steer me back towards sobriety and trying to do so without actively enabling me. It's a very fine line to walk. But just giving gentle guidance and then journaling her responses to my behavior to keep herself sane. Without further faff, let's go. So number one, she was going to work. She was holding down a job while I was doing this. I was supposed to be at work, but I had disappeared, gone off the grid. So number one says, I'm going to work. I told him he needs to stop drinking today because he might lose his job. I tried to be nice about it and tell him I know he loves his job and that I don't want him to lose it. Also, I was worried we wouldn't be able to pay the rent on time. He started arguing, you are only with me because I provide for you. You only want me back to work so you can have more money. You're only with me for the money. And then she adds, yeah, fuck this. She says, yeah, fuck this, because in this condition, I was an absolute loser. I was not going to work and therefore not earning the money. I was not a good provider for her. So for me to throw that in her face is slightly ridiculous. It's just such a pointed and arrogant position to take when I'm in that condition. Imagine someone in that condition saying something like that. You're only with me because I provide for you. When she is the person caring for me, trying to ease me out of a 2-week-long binge. Despicable. Next. I made dinner for him only for him to want to eat it earlier, and then he told me it's completely inedible. When I cried, he screamed at me that I cannot take any criticism, and that's one of the reasons he is thinking about whether I would make a good partner long term. No matter what's going to happen, I don't know if I want to cook for him ever again, and I am sure he has these thoughts sober too. Okay, so my girlfriend was just trying to keep me alive and making sure I'd eaten something, because when I'm binging, food is a low priority. It's usually just candy, sweets, Haribo, that kind of thing. So she was trying to put some nutrition in my body, and then I went off at her just for doing that. I told her that she can't take criticism. which is a way that I know that I can hurt her feelings. But in this condition, I'm not trying to be reasonable. I'm trying to hurt her feelings, trying to drive her away so that I can be left alone to drink. And I'll say anything to accomplish that, to protect my relationship with the booze. Next, I was getting ready for work. Again, this is another day. I was on 3 hours of sleep, and he saw how tired I was. I was too tired to brush my hair or put on makeup. And he said, "I am letting myself go." Ironic, lol. Imagine, oh Christ, someone 2 weeks into a binge saying that you are letting yourself go. The condition that I was in. Like, I probably hadn't showered for days. My beard was all over the place. I probably stank. I was exuding alcohol out of my pores. Just a layer of sweat because I was in withdrawal as well as drunk. To say that she was letting herself go is the height of irony. Again, it's just not meaningful. And my girlfriend thinks that truth does come out when you're drunk. I'm of the opposite opinion. I think alcohol is a mind-altering drug, and you say altered things that are not the truth. But these are not true statements. I didn't really think this. It was just for the sake of being hurtful. Next, he has started having hallucinations. Okay, so when you're drinking at this level for this long, you will begin to have alcoholic hallucinosis even while you're still drinking. It doesn't wait for you to quit because you're already in withdrawal. As soon as you start reducing the amount of alcohol, then you can go into withdrawal even while you're still drinking. And that's what's happening here. She goes on, "Anytime I've confronted him about drinking, he says, 'That person is looking at us.' He claims to see someone sitting on our couch. Obviously there's no one there. He only seems to see them once he's confronted with something." Okay, so her implication here is that I'm lying about my hallucinations in order to distract from the real conversation she wants to have about my drinking. And maybe there's some truth to that. Maybe I was playing it up a little bit. But I do know what she's talking about. I did see people sat on the sofa area of my living room. Quite often familiar people. I once had a conversation with a therapist there that never really happened. But she thinks I might be playing it up in order as a kind of distraction technique. Next, he asked me, "What time is it?" And I said, "It's 6 o'clock. He asked me whether it was in the morning or the evening. He's completely losing it. One of the symptoms of a binge this heavy is that you lose track of time. And clinically it's called confusion. It's when you are detached from space and time. So it's not as simple as just waking up not knowing what the time is. It's more like being detached from reality. That's what's beginning to happen here. I came back from work and he asked me why I was gone for the night. I had been gone only for 4 hours, slightly less in fact. He was upset that I had left him alone. Then when I said I specifically left work early to come home to see that he's okay, he was upset because I was lazy with my work. Okay, I wasn't really upset that my girlfriend is lazy. No one works harder than she does, and I know that. So saying that she's lazy, which is deliberately counterfactual and against the evidence because she works 18 hours a day, this statement is deliberately designed to hurt her feelings. It's just not true. There is nothing lazy about her, and I knew that then. So saying it was just deliberately provocative. Next. He is now claiming that I've told all of my friends and family how he has treated me and claiming I am blackmailing him. I lied and said I haven't told anyone. I've called my dad and one of my friends crying a few times now because I am so tired. He's going to freak out if he knows, so I'm not going to say anything. See, I don't care about my treatment of her. I care that what other people think of my treatment of her in this state. But this thing about me accusing her of blackmailing me is not a lie, that is a delusion. This has happened a few times in alcoholic hallucinosis, where I've been convinced that she is trying to extort money from me or that she's been kidnapped and is trying to get me to pay a ransom. And it's been a common motif of the alcoholic hallucinosis. Imagine living through this. Imagine living with somebody like this. In fact, in a previous relapse, I had gone to the police in Berlin. I had gone through alcoholic psychosis, I think, and I had left my apartment, walked a couple of miles, and reported to the police, walked into the police station and told them that my girlfriend had been kidnapped and was trying to extort money from me or trying to get me to pay a ransom. And the police didn't believe me. I think they knew what was up because they turned up en masse at my house a couple of days later to check that everything was okay. And I had to explain to them in detail that I wasn't lying to them because they kept warning me that if I'd lied, if I'd made a false report, there was a stiff penalty, like maybe jail time for that. And I had to explain that I wasn't lying, I was delusional. And I had to show them, I was an alcoholic, and I had to show them my little brain injury card to get them to go away. Very sad and scary times. Next, he thinks I am bringing people over to the house while he's sleeping. We had an argument about it. He surprisingly calmed down after I managed to convince him I didn't. Thank God. Again, this is largely because I would hallucinate that there were people in the apartment while she was away. I would have the sense that there were people talking. I could hear it. I could hear whispering, people whispering about me, people talking about me in voices that were familiar to me. So I believed for a while that she was bringing people over. And all she had to do to get me to calm down was to tell me I was hallucinating. The first time that I'd gone through delirium tremens, the first couple of times, no one said that to me. I remember that I was staying at my parents' once while I was going through delirium tremens, and I could hear my mum on the phone talking about me, it doesn't matter what, but I went and confronted her, and she said, "Listen, I'm not talking about you, I'm not whispering, I promise." And that didn't stop my fear. If she had just said, "I think you're hallucinating," then that would have stopped it. And also it happened in hospital once where the doctors told my parents that I was going through delirium tremens, but didn't tell me, which meant I had no idea I was hallucinating. Sometimes, if someone around you is hallucinating, tell them that they're hallucinating, and that can kind of puncture the delusion. That's what she did here, and I calmed down about it. Now he's convinced that the floor is moving and the furniture is being rearranged on its own. The floor is fine and the furniture isn't moving, obviously. I'm not sure why he believes this. I'm not sure either. I wonder if perhaps I'd gotten up in my sleep, if I was getting any sleep, or like that semi-conscious state of alcohol withdrawal, and walked into some furniture and moved it, and then woke up later without realizing I'd done that, and things had moved, or something. But the floor moving is something I commonly see when I'm withdrawing and also drunk. There's like motion in the floor, or the floor is crawling with bugs and insects and stuff. It can make it look like the floor itself is liquid. I had that in the psych ward several times. In fact, that's really common. Next, he's laughing and screaming while he's asleep now, so I've lost all sleep myself. I cannot make out anything he's screaming about, but he's clearly trying to say something. This went on for a long time, so the very first time that anybody was around to witness my withdrawal, it was my parents again. And I had gone to bed. They hadn't seen it. It was the first time they had seen it or heard it, and I was screaming all night. And because my parents didn't know what it was about, they didn't know that I was withdrawing from alcohol, my mum said to me in the morning, "You've got some demons in you." And that's stayed with me ever since. He has expressed wanting to stop drinking, but only starting tomorrow. Right, sure. I have to pretend to believe in him so he doesn't get upset. That's sad, isn't it? Brutal. Otherwise, he'll use it as an excuse to drink. Only 30 minutes after saying he's going to stop, he asked me to go out and buy him a bottle. No intention of stopping. My intention here is to destroy myself. I don't want to end the binge. I didn't want to. I never did. I wanted to drink until I died. He now has started to believe that there are people looking at him and stalking him, and I cannot convince him otherwise. Deep into a delusion at this point. These delusions, I remember, were slightly influenced by a schizophrenic guy who lived on my street in Berlin. And in sobriety, I used to check out his Facebook page because he refused to take medication and believed he had put black bin bags all over all of his windows and believed that there were people outside with satellite dishes pointing at his house and were listening to him walk around in his apartment. And I was fascinated by it in sobriety. And he was at the same psych ward that I was eventually taken to, Bodelschwing in Berlin. And I was as fascinated as I was about it in sobriety. I was exactly the same once I was going into withdrawal. And in this stage in a binge, I was absolutely the same as that schizophrenic guy. I believed that there were people outside pointing things into my apartment. I had like big windows, a huge row of windows, and a big long garden outside my apartment. And I lived on the 3rd floor. And I could see into I lived in the attic of this old mansion, and there was another old mansion opposite, also with an attic facing mine. And I became convinced that they were able to spy into my apartment. And then finally, he is going to the psych ward, thank God. I can finally go to sleep after 2 weeks. That was a 2-week-long binge that my girlfriend endured, staying with me most of the time when she wasn't at work. And as a result of my complete sleeplessness, she also wasn't sleeping. I was too unpredictable and too unstable. And any time I was able to catch some sleep, it would be full of shouting and screaming. And then I would wake up angry, also not sleeping myself. And pick fights, pick arguments to try to drive her out of the apartment, try to drive her away. Neither of us knew that that was my intention, but it was. I think any other isolating alcoholic will be familiar with this kind of subconscious desire to push everybody away so you can be left alone with your bottle and nothing else. No responsibilities, shut out the world, shut the curtains, just drink yourself into oblivion as if nothing else mattered. That was the state that I was in. And I was willing to say every mean, unfair, hurtful thing I could in order to get her to leave. And then when she did, I would just black out again. At this time, I was drinking extremely heavily. She was trying to get me to drink less and less each day, which is actually triggering my withdrawal. So I went down to give you some context of how much I was drinking at this time. It was comfortably 1.25 liters of vodka every day, at least for the first week. So I was buying 2 70 centiliter bottles, drinking an entire one throughout the day, and a bit of the second one, and then leaving enough for the following morning so that I could drink and then go and be sober enough to go and buy more. And that was my pattern, which is the kind of level of alcohol which will take you out of your mind, and it will make you delusional. It will give you alcoholic psychosis. It will give you alcohol poisoning. And very quickly, if you start to reduce from that amount, and also because I'd been drinking that amount in periods before, the kindling effect makes you more susceptible to severe alcohol withdrawal syndrome and delirium tremens. It gets easier to achieve that level every time you drink. And my girlfriend had to witness me go through that, going through withdrawal even while I was drinking enough to put a normal person under the table. And eventually, I started hallucinating badly enough that I knew, and she had managed to talk me down and talk me into hospital until I knew that was the right thing for me. She walked a very, very fine line in that, in order to not actively enable me, but also not cause me to leave the apartment and go and do it for myself, go and buy ridiculous amounts of alcohol and not kill myself on the street. She walked that tightrope incredibly well. And God knows how she tolerated it. Thank you for watching. I certainly don't think you would have enjoyed that. I did not. Okay, if you've made it this far, do Subscribe if you're not already. Check out the Patreon at patreon.com/backcountrysober. Go to betterwithoutbooze.me for the most fully featured sobriety app on the planet. Thank you for watching, and as always, good luck out there.